The subtitle of our event today is Boosting Your Construction Project's Bottom Line. And the eminent panel we've assembled today is some of the most respected and knowledgeable people in the development and construction industries, can certainly speak volumes to that subject. But this discussion is about so much more than that. For starters, we'll get the inside scoop on a few of the most innovative and important projects currently underway in our city, projects that are genuine game changers. A Tribeca condominium complex with private outdoor spaces overlooking the skyline, rivers, and bridges, also featuring an indoor-outdoor theater. Iconic office towers that will use innovative bridge technology to build above railroad tracks without disrupting train traffic. A luxury condominium landmark conversion with new construction which will share a lobby and recreational spaces. An elegant high-rise with a bronze window wall offering panoramic views of the Hudson River and downtown. New construction featuring 8 spacious, one-of-a-kind residences right in the heart of Greenwich Village. As today's developers share their case studies of their projects with us, we'll gain a high-level insider's perspective on best practices, as well as sophisticated strategies and solutions for managing unpredictable factors that can affect the profitability and overall success of a project. The insights they offer are sure to be invaluable. But on a broader level, the event is all about doing things better, more efficiently, and more intelligently, not only to increase revenues, but to reduce risk, improve sustainability, and make projects the absolute best that they can be throughout their life cycle for those who own them, lease them, live, and work in them. The most basic upfront decisions that are design, construction, and project management related can ripple, for better or for worse, throughout the life of a building. Cutting corners in areas such as materials, technology, and construction staffing, for instance, can save money in the short term, but may prove disastrous in the long term. Successful builders understand that the true value of spending more money is putting it where it counts, which can save a fortune down the road on such expenses as maintenance and repair, as well as insurance costs and potential litigation. Another critical component of building better is cooperation among the various stakeholders, including developers, engineers, architects, and building trades. The creation of a common language where everyone is on the same page, looking at the project as a whole. And here, advances in technology have once again worked their way into the design and building process. The development of more effective communication systems has helped to save time and money by making the process of information sharing about all aspects of a project as seamless as possible. This communication and connectivity are essential because all disciplines need to work together, listen to one another, and respect one another's expertise, taking the complexity of the entire project into account rather than looking at it on a piecemeal basis. People need to understand not only what their responsibilities are, but how their roles fit into the larger picture. Confucian philosopher Sun Tzu said, "In order to properly understand the big picture, one must not become clouded by one small section of truth." This is especially true when collaborating on a project, especially with 1,000,001 moving parts. People must broaden their focus beyond their own jobs and participate in a shared vision where everyone is invested in the entire project. And this starts with communication. Establishing a strong dialogue among all stakeholders prevents the kind of tunnel vision that can hamstring a project with misunderstandings, mistakes, and costly delays. But this morning, we'll also delve into several more specific aspects of building better, including how much does the scale of a project change the methodology? Certainly the complexity changes, but what principles such as cost efficiency remain the same? How can cost savings be achieved without sacrificing quality or safety? What aspects of building smarter come into play here? What operational efficiencies are these developers employing to save money and time? What new role does technology play? And how important does sustainability play in the construction process? What are some of the new resiliency innovations for high-rise construction? And how critical a role do they play in the planning process? And last but not least, how have these developers today used their own best practices evolving over the last few years? Clearly, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so without further ado, let's get started. It's my distinct honor to introduce our keynote speaker today, Sabrina Kanner. Sabrina is Senior Vice President, Design and Construction for Property Operations, United States of Brookfield Office Properties. Sabrina has been with Brookfield Properties and its predecessor since 1982. She oversees design and construction in the United States. Sabrina has been involved in the development or redevelopment of over, and I'm impressed with this, 30 million square feet of signature Brookfield projects such as World Financial Center, 300 Madison Avenue, and the Bay Adelaide Center, and currently the repositioning of Brookfield Place and the development of Manhattan West in the Hudson Yards district.
Developers have been decking over tracks for over 100 years in Manhattan. Each site presents its own challenges and idiosyncrasies. Allow me to lay out some of the challenges of platform construction in our corner of the Hudson Yards district. We're looking at an aerial view of our overbuilt site. It's bounded by 9th Avenue to the east, the Dyer Avenue entrance to Lincoln Tunnel to the west, 31st Street to the south, and 33rd Street to the north. There are shoulders of terra firma on the north and south sides of the site. The open cut to the tracks is 240 feet wide, 500 feet long, and 65 feet deep to track level. 1,500 trains pass through the site every single weekday. In addition, there's a network of electrical cable catenaries up in the air across the site, which provide 12,000 volts of power to the trains below, making it complicated to swing steel or to penetrate down to track level. Our first pass at designing this overbuild back in 2007 took a conventional approach with a stick-built steel frame and concrete deck. The problem, of course, that we were completely in the way of the railroad traffic, and they in turn were completely in the way of our construction. As a result, the work had to happen during very short windows in the middle of the night, which was not terribly productive, and the overall schedule was impractically long and almost unlimited schedule and presented with almost unlimited schedule and cost risk. In addition, the potential of electrical arcing between the catenaries and steel remained an unsolved issue. Barry Charnish of Intuitive Corporation approached us with an innovative engineering idea to utilize bridge technology to span the train tracks completely, one end to the other, without touching down, minimizing involvement at track level and enormously reducing cost, schedule, and risk. Exploring this idea with some of the largest civil companies in the world, the concept was further improved by Rosani Diecker, who eventually became our bridge contractor on the project, by using an all-concrete system, enormous precast segments, post-tensioned together to form 240-foot bridges set side by side across the site. This last enhancement cleverly solved for our concerns of placing steel in close proximity to the catenaries, even further reducing risk. I have an animation with me depicting our platform construction. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I'm convinced our animation's worth about 1,000,000, so I'll let our animation tell its story.
Brookfield's Manhattan West is a 5.4 million square foot commercial development site located on 5 acres on the west side of Manhattan. The site is flanked to the south and north by 31st and 33rd Streets and 9th and Dyer Avenues to the east and west. Railroad tracks leading in and out of New York's Penn Station are located partially uncovered 65 feet below grade. The first step in the Manhattan West development is covering the open tracks. The process begins with excavation of the north and south sides of the site to about 30 feet below grade and the installation of caissons, which will provide a platform for the decking to sit upon. Cap beams are installed, creating a track on which the spans of the deck will be moved into place and a load-bearing surface for the deck. The staging area and the construction of a temporary platform along Dyer Avenue will allow us to work 24/7 on the installation of the deck, while the rails operate unimpeded down below. On the south side, the cap beam continues above the Amtrak maintenance yard. The yellow machinery is called a launcher, which is erected on site. Custom-designed equipment picks up and delivers each segment to the launcher to be hoisted and placed incrementally along the temporary platform. The launcher lifts and places each of the 56-ton precast concrete segments that make up the 16 bridges of the decking. There, they are joined and locked together. Steel cables, or post-tensioning, are hydraulically pulled through the prefabricated sleeves of the connected segments, tying them together to become a single completed bridge span. The span is now laterally moved from the temporary platform along the cap beam into position. Brookfield is utilizing post-tension precast segmental bridge technology to build a deck over these tracks, allowing for the construction of the office towers without disrupting the passage of the trains below. The deck is made up of 16 bridges made of precast concrete spanning north to south. Once the deck is completed, the site is ready for the erection of the office towers. The load-bearing cores of the towers will sit on the bedrock to the north and south of the deck. Manhattan West's iconic office towers will soar as high as 62 stories above what is currently undeveloped property, becoming a dramatic, environmentally sustainable addition to the Midtown Manhattan skyline.
Construction of the platform is about a 2-year project. We began last October and are close to ready to begin launching our spans. To date, we've constructed our temporary protection platform, have built and placed our launcher, and commissioning is taking place right now. The cap beams are about 70% complete. 450 of 614 segments have been cast to date, and we've begun transferring them to the site. We're on schedule to launch our first span in January and to continue to place a span every few weeks until completion by the end of 2014. I'd like to share with you some fun facts about the Manhattan West platform, just to give you a sense of scale. Each span is made up of 39 segments and weighs 2,400 tons. Each segment is 12 feet tall, 30 feet wide, 6 feet deep. Each segment weighs 56 tons, is cast of 27 cubic yards of 9,500 psi concrete. The platform will contain 749 miles of post-tensioning strands. The platform, which will have a loading capacity of 40,000 tons or 800 pounds per square foot, will become a staging area for cranes and trucks during the construction of our towers. When the towers are complete, the platform becomes the parking and loading deck for the entire complex. The launcher is 300 feet long, 36 feet wide, and 110 feet tall, and is constructed of 1,500 tons of steel. Launcher is designed to carry 3,600 tons. The launcher was engineered and built specifically for the Manhattan West project at a cost of $7 million. When the project is complete, the launcher becomes obsolete. So look for Brookfield's launcher on eBay, first quarter 2015. All bidders welcome. They think I'm kidding. Precast segmental bridge construction is one of the most commonly used building technologies in the world for transportation projects. Local examples of this technology include Roslyn Avenue Viaduct on Long Island, JFK, the air train to JFK, the Victory Bridge over the Raritan River in New Jersey, and the BQE approach to the Williamsburg Bridge. Our application is, to our knowledge, completely unique. That said, we hope that others may take our concept and explore and expand upon it. This concept saved Brookfield at least 2 years in construction, 2 years, and $200 million, allowing us to proceed with our platform much earlier in our project schedule than would have otherwise been possible. Yet the potential exists to use span-by-span technology to create land for other much-needed uses, such as low-income housing in other sites challenged by train yards or even highways. The surface has barely been scratched. It is up to the development community to seek the limits of what can be accomplished with this technology to spur on new projects and to provide for the greater good of the city. I challenge us all to become inspired, to be creative, and to take span-by-span construction technology to a new level and for innovative and higher uses.
So the New York skyline is going through a magnificent transformation, and we have with us today some masters of the development and construction arena who are instrumental in that transformation. Jack cited a Confucian philosopher in his opening remarks, and that reminds me of a Confucius saying, apropos to our discussion this morning. By three methods we learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. Our panelists have achieved great success through careful thought, through the wisdom they've learned from others who've braved the development and construction frontier, and through some challenges they encountered along the way.
So I work with Willis, responsible for our industries, including our construction practice. Mark Theriot and some of our members that lead that team are here today. And when we looked back over the past 2 years, we've been involved with the insurance on over $10 billion in New York construction projects. Many of those projects are yours in the audience and some of my fellow panel members. So I don't think I'll put up any pictures, or videos. But to frame my comments today, I think the rule of thumb and for the cost of construction, and our theme is that the rule of thumb used to be 3 to 5% of construction cost was in and around insurance. And that varies around the country. And in fact, we were just looking at a project in Boston. I think it was in the 2 to 3% range. In New York today, those numbers are 6 to 7, 8 to 9, 10, and growing. And there's over 20,000 contractors that you would call of decent size in the U.S. And if you were to do $100 million of projects or a project in 2014, you'd be in the top 400. If you were to do 500 million was your plans for next year, you'd be number 121. And so as you think of that, even a $20 million project makes you a decent sized contractor in the US. So the questions are, do you look at risk, do you manage risk, do you count risk as developers and project lenders and leaders the same way as a contractor does?
We are an integrated owner, designer, construction manager, and management company here in New York and San Francisco. Headquarters here in New York. We operate on the West Coast as well. We have 10 projects currently under active development on both coasts. And we are slightly different in that we are our own construction manager and in many cases our own general contractor for our projects, so we self-manage. In some ways, that's perceived to be greater risk, but we actually believe that it helps mitigate our risk because we control many more aspects of our project, and we've done it very successfully to date. And we have dedicated site safety programs, site safety personnel, and we believe that from a construction perspective, it actually helps our bottom line, and we can get into that later on today.
I lead Jones Lang LaSalle's project and development group, primarily from the Northeast. That's really Delaware to about Connecticut, covering a wide range of projects and type of asset classes. That's industrial, healthcare, hospitality. I think there's some slides going behind us. Madison Square Garden, we just completed and opened up that project. So really covering quite a range of projects throughout this region. Like I said, hotels, retail, sports and entertainment, and all that. About 240 people in the group. Currently, I think we've got about, under our project and development management, about $7 billion in assets.
Principal DHA Capital. We started in 2011. We've closed on 6 projects. 2 are out of the ground, 1 is completed. And we currently have about $225 million under development. I was going to say that beautiful picture you saw is 12 East 13th Street, which is a renovation project we're doing down in Greenwich Village. And I'll get into the details a little bit about that. It's really exciting.
I'm with the Lexico Group. We specialize in high-end condos, luxury condos or developments. We recently finished the Laurel and Upper East Side condo project. We also finished the gut renovation of the Mark Hotel. And currently we're building 56 Leonard. It's a 60-story building, which I guess somebody said the clip is at 10,000 words, but maybe we'll go to the clip. It's 830 feet tall. It's one of the biggest building being built in New York right now. The challenge of this building, I mean, we have, very tough design architects, but the challenge is that every plate is different. A lot of cantilevers, so structurally it's a very strong building, and it's a challenge to build. But we'll get into that if you want to later on.
Like Joe's company, we're a fully integrated development and construction company. We self-perform all of our own work. We hold all trade contracts directly, all site supervision, project labor, all direct employees. We also feel that having this control over the process actually greatly mitigates our risk. And we also feel that having sort of the same people at the table during the design process, having those people carry out the construction adds a lot of value and mitigates risk as well. We're primarily residential developers. We have about 4 million feet under development in New York and Miami. We're based in New York. I'm going to run you through a quick cross-section of some of our projects that we might touch upon today. So this is Walker Tower, which is a luxury condominium conversion and expansion in Chelsea, which we're completing now, and residents are moving in this month. Next slide. This is 111 West 57th Street, which is a new tower that'll be over 1,300 feet tall. It's also the conversion of the landmark Steinway Hall into residential condominiums and has a large retail component. Next slide. This is 626 First Avenue, which is a large-scale rental project that we're building on the East River, one of the former Con Ed sites. It's 800 units. The towers will be clad in copper, and there's a 3-story sky bridge that houses 30,000 feet of indoor amenities. So some real challenges on that one. Click on the next one. This is another conversion that we're actually about to start sales on, 435 West 50th Street, another former Verizon building. This is a rental project in Park Slope, Brooklyn, which we recently completed on 202 8th Street. And then in the South Florida market, Echo Brickell, which is a 57-story tower. And the next slide is Echo Aventura, which is a mid-rise 190-unit condo complex. I'll touch on sort of some of the differences between maybe New York, Miami, maybe Joe could touch on San Francisco, condo versus rental, large scale versus small scale. We sort of showing you a diverse cross-section.
We know that building better may not mean building cheaper. Jack noted that in his remarks, and you're trying to strike a balance between quality and costs. Please describe some factors that you focus on to control construction costs even before the first shovel goes into the ground, factors that let you strive for the quality you seek, yet keeping the costs for the project under control. Josh, why don't we start with you?
Well, it's certainly a challenge maintaining the aesthetic and adhering to the budget. One thing to think about, and actually it's something my favorite designer, Nancy Ruddy, brought up to me once, and we were sitting around a table and just trying to value engineer our finishes. And when you think about it, the finishes relative to the overall budget represent maybe 10 to 15% of the total budget. And at our project at 12 East 13th Street, we're really raising the bar on our level of finishes, and the ratio is more like 20 to 25%. So I think the real way to save money is behind the walls, where the end user may not see. And if the engineers are speccing, let's say, the Maserati of the boilers, as long as the specification remains the same, it's okay to purchase, let's say, the BMW version and save money that way. I think certainly there's ways to home in on the design process and find ways in the drawings and in the design to really save money again on the specifications.
Joe?
Yeah, we take a very integrated approach to our design build process. We have dedicated in-house designers, architects, and a dedicated in-house construction management general contracting company. So throughout the whole design process, the teams literally sit right next to each other. They sit at the same table. And when a design decision is made, we look at the impact to the project budget and the project schedule. Then we go back to making a design decision, then we look at the impact of the schedule. It's a very iterative process. So, I wouldn't use the term necessarily value engineering, but we look at, every dollar we spend, and we don't necessarily look to save money in the final budget. What we try to do is really maximize the quality of the project under the premise that, the higher quality project will get better returns on the top line. And so if we are, able to, find, a finish or a design spec that might be, more efficient from a cost perspective, it allows us actually to upgrade the project overall. And that's how we go about thinking about each of our projects, both here and in San Francisco. And we've done things such as you'll have handmade bricks in Belgium, but we import them ourselves. Italian bronze, but again, we import it ourselves, where if we, went through traditional channels to acquire some of those materials, they would be cost prohibitive.
When you go through that iterative process, are you bringing construction expertise as well into the picture to look at means, methods? So Sabrina, for example, spoke about $200 million savings from a construction technique. Are you looking at that as well when you go through that design cost analysis?
It's a constant means methods with mechanical engineers, structural engineers, and our outside architects, consultants, advisors. And there are, for instance, in San Francisco, where there is very, very stringent seismic requirements, there are 2 or 3 different methodologies you can use. And we are using post-tension slabs out there, similar to bridge technology. But we again, it's a very iterative process, and you try and get the best value for dollar at the same time, maximizing safety and maximizing aesthetic effect.
Michael?
Yeah, I think cost savings really start at the design table, and very similar to what Joe was referring to. We have all the people who are going to carry out the construction sitting next to the people overseeing the design process. And, scale really comes into it also when you talk about cost savings, because there are things you can do on larger scale jobs to save money that aren't necessarily efficient on smaller ones, such as, building whole assemblies of kitchens and bathroom vanities modularly overseas, things like that, which you can't do on the small boutique condo project. You wouldn't want to, because you wouldn't achieve the aesthetic or the quality that you're looking for. But on a large-scale rental project, there are a lot of opportunities to save money. So I think it's very specific to a project's asset type and location.
Isaac, in answering sort of the same question, just also focus on the importance of bringing the right design team and construction team, CMGC, to a project.
Yeah, it's a key, as everybody else said. Pre-construction is a very important part of it's as important as the construction itself, if not more. So basically, you do want to bring local, talented, I have some friends in this room, local, talented consultants and architects and engineers, and you do want to get to a almost 100% coordinated, fully coordinated construction drawings before you start. That's a key, because if you don't do that, you're going to end up with a lot of change orders and delays, which hits you badly. And so to avoid those, you really need a seasoned, you want to hire experienced people. You want to hire you don't want to go for the last dollar, consultants. You do want to, a lot of the developers like the fast track method. I like it too, but you do want to, again, not only 100% coordinated drawings, but you do want to also pre-purchase a lot of things, because you do want to give yourself a lot of time to buy trades and actually meet with all the subs, maybe 4 or 5 subs in each trade. That will give you an insight to build it better, to build it more efficiently.
Sabrina, so same thing, interesting. Do you also look for that fully coordinated set? We're still talking about what you're doing pre-construction to save costs, but I found Isaac's comment interesting. I'm not sure it's universally shared, because often you see people believe that if you fast track different packages, from the design side, you can accelerate construction, obviously saving on schedule.
That is probably closer to our style. We tend to issue an early package, not only for excavation foundation, but steel and curtain wall. I think it's also very important to monitor your vendors in the pre-construction phase, understanding what your competition is and what those windows are that are available for your curtain wall, and don't let them close on you. To maintain a certain volume of competition and keep it going. If you have to jump, you might have to jump to save yourself a few $1 million to make sure that you've got the right vendor for your job. I also agree with what everyone is saying. I think you have to select the right design consultant, not only for your project, but for your work style. We all know, we all have our ways of working, and the last thing you want to do is be wasting time and consultant time on dealing with you or dealing with your team. You want them focused and producing for you.
What we've seen, at least across the many asset types of projects, is it really project to project vary. I think the buying of the early packages makes a lot of sense and a lot of time to get out in front of that. I also think the savings we'll see in the future, I don't know how many folks out here involved in BIM. We're using BIM quite a bit on biopharm and lab, where there's a lot of interference with process piping early on. And I think that is kind of accelerating some of the design, certainly backing up on the change orders and then having certainly valuable data capture at the end of that. But as far as, I would love to be on a project where we started with a full set of documents. Man, that would be, and we don't build that much residential, and that's why I said I really think it varies from project to project on that. But I do believe the coordination of the teams and stuff up front, and when you get the right groups engaged, is really where you start seeing savings.
So as an owner's rep or developer partner that you're working with, is that sort of the role you're playing, is making sure you have an aggressive look from all design
I
and
think so.
construction team members?
I think from our side, it's project type, scale, and the client is when, what we'll look at, when's the right time for us to get involved. I mean, the quick and easy answer, the standard answer certainly would be, well, as early as possible, The accounting answer is it depends. But I think as we go in, and a lot of you guys have a very experienced panel up here, you have great staffs. We may be a supplement to that staff. It may be coming in and asking us to help as the project is already scaled up and ready to go, involved on perhaps a corporate interior fit out. You saw Madison Square Garden project up there. We were there 2 years before certainly the Dolans and everybody else could figure out exactly what they were doing. So we really helped, I think, in the pre-buy, the pre-purchase, the team and the building of the team and the building of the team and then the rebuilding of the team. But I think it really depends on that, how to get involved. But usually the earlier the better. So that, like you said, it's really about the folks you have at the table and how ahead of it you can get. I think that's where the savings are. Materials, the cost are going to be the cost. The labor, the cost is going to be the cost. At some point, is how you can build these projects quicker and more efficiently. The bridge tech is I remember going through the presentation. That was years ago in '07. That was a fabulous technology and stuff. And it was great.
I do know that project labor agreements, we've seen exponential rise of using project labor agreements, which with mixed success. It's sort of to assist in using union. There is an effort on the part of the unions to be much more efficient and to pass on cost savings. And again, there are some variances you see, but it's something to consider, and I'd suggest you consider again. We're not going to pursue that in this particular conference, but something for you to consider. All right, so let's talk about and switch gears a little bit, focusing on IRR, schedule, and the like. So now you're going into your construction project. You're negotiating terms. Construction has inherent risk, and you're focusing on schedule, right? We're talking quality, budget. So now you're meeting with, in the New York market, your CM, maybe a GC for some projects, to the extent you're doing that, except if you're not self-performing. Let's focus on some of the key things you're looking for to keep things under control. So Isaac, for example, general conditions costs. Something that's negotiated term. You don't have to give away any secrets, of course, but what are you looking for to keep costs under control going into this, so that you can set a budget, try to have some comfort in a fixed cost for the project?
Well, I mean, the financing community right now really requires a GMP on a, you know, if you're hiring a CM, you're probably gonna get, you'll probably need to get a GMP. Within that GMP, there's gonna be line items, and one of the line items will be the GCs. And so by having a GMP, you're putting a cap on the GCs, or if you should put caps. I think that's, you need the CM to have some skin on the game. You need to be on the same platform. Time should work against, if it works against you, it should work against them. So, I mean, them meaning you're a team, but, it puts you in the same boat. So basically, I believe in GMPs, which indirectly gives you caps on certain things, time and general conditions. So I think it's a good idea to cap anything you can. It's a matter of negotiations. It's a matter of the complexity of the job, how early you're doing it. Again, some of my colleagues here had a problem with the 100% coordinated drawings. That's the way I do it. I'm sorry for
No,
you.
that's great.
You guys can't get that. I get that. All right. It is true. I do agree. It's very tough to just wait for the last drawing to appear to start construction. We fast track it. We do it. We take risks. But in GMP, I mean, to just sum it up, yes, caps are good. No cap is worse than yes cap. So you want to cap everything you can.
Yeah, well, Joe, you do some CM work as well, or is it all in-house?
We, in a handful of our projects, we have used outside general contractors, but most of our work is self-performed, and we have a separate construction management company and separate general contracting company to isolate those businesses. So we do self-perform, and the insurance, and we control the insurance ourselves, obviously, and between bonding and subguard, I agree with the other point. Subguard would be the preference on the two. And from a cost perspective, we tend to fast track. And given we're controlling the design, the asset, and the construction, we think it works very well for us. And waiting for 100% complete drawings can slow down the timing of the project, which impacts the IRR. So we actually think we can accelerate.
We do it without losing any time.
That's
We don't
I'm gonna
lose.
stay out of this fight. Let y'all-
I commend you for that. So when it comes to the budgeting for IRR purposes, we acquired a project. As an example, in 2012, where we had we knew what the budget was going to be. We knew what the acquisition costs are. We knew the hard cost, and we had an insurance estimate. 7-8 months later, when we actually placed the insurance, the premium more than doubled. And that was from September of 2012 until the middle of 2013. That was the market really moved. There was just a huge move, and that was surprising. And I think it goes to all the points that you were made a few minutes ago. You're talking about IRR. I mean, the biggest killer. It's not $10 in hard cost. It's several months in the timing of the project, and the real estate does move in cycles. And so, you need to be cognizant of, how long something's going to take, because your time is your big killer.
So
I was going to say, I think back to your cost savings, I think a cap on a GMP is great. A shared savings, we're doing a West Coast project with a GMP shared savings, which is pretty interesting. Also is on change orders, no increase in general conditions. So go in, you're for whatever change order you send in, you're going to absorb that in your existing general conditions is another way to kind of hold down the cost and hold down some of the conditions on that as well.
So let's just think of and share some best practices that you've seen for trying to keep your projects on budget, on schedule, because now you're into the midst of the job. There may be times you need to accelerate. There may be times where circumstances arise. What technique strategies do you find that you're using on that? Michael, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, actually, the key for us is actually fast tracking. It's key to get into the ground to start your foundation ASAP. There's just a certain duration with, especially with SOE, that you just, no matter what you do, there's only so many drilling machines to do caissons that can fit on a site, and they can do only so many piles in a day, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important to get in front of those issues. And the other thing, aside from cost, is lead times. You know, curtain wall lead times, as Sabrina mentioned. You know, if you do everything right, the fastest you can really get curtain wall on a job is 12 to 14 months if everything goes perfectly. So it's critical to get your design build package out for your curtain wall, and whatever VE you're going to have on your curtain wall, you need to do it really, really quickly. So putting those packages out early is really important. And then, as I mentioned, on large-scale projects, you know, I think we're going to see a move towards modular, whether it's for the whole building or for a lot of building components, where you used to have 4 or 5 trades touching a certain area, like a bathroom vanity, where you'd have a cabinet get set and somebody put the sink in and plumb it and power it and put a mirror and then put a light. You're seeing that whole module now being built overseas, you know, dropped to the job and put in. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And I think, you know, as things get busier, same applies for curtain wall millwork. There's actually a real concern on my side of just capacity. There's only so many men, so many man hours, and I think you're going to see more of that.
All right, what I'd like to do is just have each of you comment on both sustainability, because we know that is critical in today's environment, sort of approaches you're taking towards it, and also resiliency. So Chris just mentioned Sandy. We know what happened in the Philippines. We know potential weather patterns are changing. What is it that you're focusing on both of those fronts, from both sustainability and a resiliency standpoint? Sabrina.
Sustainability, from our point of view, is no longer even a separate point. I think it's a given. Everything is sustainable, and it's just part of our design practice. Not so much necessarily LEED, but immediately looking at your energy, looking at your mechanical systems, looking at your solar gain, looking at your facade. So it's almost just become business as usual at this point for us, and probably for all of you too. It's market, right? And you have a very sophisticated market in New York. Whomever is coming, your tenants, not only to buy their own homes, but to come as major tenants, not only are sensitive to this on their own corporate behalf, but they're sensitive to it in terms of the statement they make to their workforce and what this does to draw and retain their employees. So we don't even consider, it just goes without saying. Resiliency, obviously, every component, every critical component moves up if it can, or gets waterproofed. And of course, fuel oil remains the tough problem to solve. We'd love to get it up. That struggle with the building department and what is safe and how to make it safe continues to be a dialogue, and that's our weak link. So.
Chris, you can talk on the insurance side. How does that factor in, if at all, sustainability and resiliency into what you're seeing in today's market?
The insurance industry has been a little slow to catch up to that because of all the different things of what's green and the sustainability, but and are responding in the not even a concerted or coordinated effort. In fact, George mentioned before the accounting depends. I thought that was our line. And you buy every policy that your broker tells you, then you have a claim, you call him up, and he goes, "Well, it depends. Let me see." And you're like, "Well, I bought everything." So again, going back, you have to read the fine print. So they're starting to do that. And Sandy is a perfect example of that. You're not going to replace a 10-year-old boiler that doesn't meet the LEED certification today. And so there's builder's risk policies that start to incorporate that language in and allow you to maintain your certification in doing those pieces. You've got product warranties and liabilities. Same thing for the design professionals. Contractors have really, I think, embraced, and you've seen a lot of that in the construction period with demolition and how to build and not use recycled materials and kind of doing those things. And I think it might have been Joseph before that mentioned the issues still are when everything kind of comes together And that's where some of the new kind of ground is still going. And an example would be on a roof where you have water collection for rainwater, and you're going to use that to cool the system, and then there's some water intrusion. So I got a contractor, I got the guy who built the thing, I got all those people kind of coming together and saying, well, I did this, and now the building's finished, so now we get into defects and we get into those issues, and we've got a LEED certification that's kind of hanging out in the balance.
Jim.
Sustainability, we think is very important, as I'm sure all the panelists do. We have a corporate philosophy that we would like for all of our buildings to go for LEED certification, and that's something we implemented several years ago. And LEED has its pros and its cons, but right now it's the standard. So we think that that's something we look to achieve. From a green perspective, we use multiple of our projects over the last couple of years and going forward sustainable woods in our flooring, and have actually had our team visit the forest where the wood is harvested and meet with those that actually do the work on the flooring. And we think that it's the right answer for the environment. We think that buyers like it too, although I don't think very many buyers know we actually went to the forest, and I don't think any of them do actually.
You should tell them.
Yeah, we should. And from a green perspective, if you look at a lot of our buildings, that's one of our signatures, is they tend to be very green, whether it's trees growing on a marquee or plantings in the windows, or bulkheads that are substantially planted. We think it looks better. It's better for the environment. If you're living there, you're working there, I think it's nicer than a concrete slab. We've also been very aggressive at adaptive reuse in a number of our projects. We've built new structures over top of existing structures, reused, bricks when possible. We're doing that on the multiple projects, throughout the city, so that they don't end up landfilled somewhere. And you can't do that on every project, but where we can, we think it's the right answer, for the environment and for New York and San Francisco, the two markets we're in right now. So it relates to Hurricane Sandy. I think that was a game changer in construction practices to a large extent. I know that it changed what we're doing in some of our projects downtown, where we were moving forward pre-Sandy, and mechanicals were below grade in the cellar. Then all of a sudden, everything's up at grade, and so, or actually above grade. And so I think that you have to account for that. I mean, the world is a changing place, and I think if you look at that event, and it's just you just need to account for Mother Nature going forward. And I think every developer in the city, I think, is doing that.
George, how about you?
Yeah, it's going to sound like a broken record probably by the time you get down there, but I think, look, you guys are asking for it, the clients, the owners, the occupiers, the developers, and everybody are asking for LEED sustainability. I think it's the right thing to do, and it is finally becoming the right thing everyone's doing to whatever level you're taking it. We're very busy in that sector. Our energy retrofit business is huge. The Empire State Building, now with Lincoln Center and all that, where we're going in. So I think that's kind of the next level. We're taking that in and seeing that on the adaptive reuses. Fabulous program, absolutely the right thing to do, and everybody's asking it for it, from the investors all the way to the occupiers and the folks, I'm sure, that are leasing and buying the rental properties. Resiliency, huge. Down and a lot of recovering for those of you that were at the Building Congress last night. You saw the video that the PA ran. Unbelievable down there. We were absolutely in the middle of that. I think moving switch gear and communications gear up, and I think alternative fuels. How are you going to power your backup systems? I think that's the area to look at that, and how you can. I don't know that we're ever going to, because as soon as you get a 100-year flood, you get a 500-year flood, and then you'll get the 1,000-year flood, and then you get the typhoon in the Philippines. So I don't know that we'll ever figure out exactly how to totally mitigate against that. Let's try to find alternative ways of kind of responding, maybe, and recovering quicker. Maybe another way to look at it.
We agree that the LEED certification program, Building Green, is definitely the future. I think right now it's a cost-benefit struggle for us on some of our projects. What we're doing is, like some of these guys said, is we're doing a lot of adaptive reuse, and that seems to make sense. As far as resiliency is concerned, I mean, it's definitely changing our marketing and design approach. I know in a lot of our buildings right now, we're installing generators, and we're also providing each unit with an outlet that has power to that generator in the event of a storm. So when you tell the end user that they're going to receive that, they remember Sandy, and they're worried about Sandy 2.0 and having to walk to the deli that has power. That won't happen in our buildings.
Well, yeah, in sustainability, I think we have to look up to Europe. I think because of their energy costs being higher, I think they have a jump start to this, and we were more concerned in the last decade in the first coast of. But this is changing, and it's not a fad. I think the whole industry is lacking it. Buyers, clients are lacking it. I think you gotta reduce your carbon footprint to that end, using dual fuel boilers, combining your boilers and chillers, energy saving appliances, LED lighting, which also saves in HVAC, not only electric and maintenance, and bike rooms and stormwater, to use stormwater for your landscaping. All those things are being done, and it's catching up, and it's here to stay. And I think we all have to be in that game, and with every project we have to improve it. That's the way we think. I think it's just a good thing to do. In terms of resilience, I mean, yes, Sandy was a big lesson to all of us. I think it was to us at least. I mean, now everything goes above ground. I mean, you're not going to put your electrical room below ground at this point. Also taught you a lesson where look, Beth Israel Hospital, you have your generator, you think you're covered, and then all your tanks and machinery is underground, and you're screwed. Basically, all that planning has to be done. I think in a large building, a generator is a must. A generator has to be above ground. All the machinery, or gas tanks and fuel oil tanks, whatever have you. I know there's problems with some fuel oil tanks, but they have to be all thought about. Again, Sandy was a game changer and was a good lesson, and I think we'll grow from it.
Okay. Michael, any comments?
Sure, I'll just say that one of the things on the resiliency topic is we need to see some changes in zoning and building codes to adapt, and they really haven't yet. As Sabrina mentioned, you can have the best generator in the world above ground, but if your fuel tank floods, what good does it do you? And there's sort of been this battle back and forth between the building department and the fire department, trying to get the fuel out of the basement, or allowing commercial buildings to go natural gas and some other things. The other thing we really need to see is, in order to get all these generators up on roofs and things like that, we need to see a relaxation of what permitted obstructions are on roofs for zoning, because in contextual zoning districts, even if you want to put the generator on the roof, you can't, because you're giving up height, because there's a hard height limit that doesn't allow for those things. So we need to see some legislative change there as well. And on the resiliency topic as well, like everyone else, all the other panelists mentioned, generators, of course, powered every unit. We're also seeing dry flood-proofing systems where we're literally creating a barrier around the building in the event of a high flood event. It's at 626 First Avenue, where we have 6 feet of flood protection around the entire site, and that's a full city block. So we're going to start see more and more of that. And circling back for a second on LEED, I think sustainability is inherent in really everyone's design now, and you're seeing a move towards more sustainability, and I think you've seen recently a bit of a move away from LEED, because a lot of the criteria of LEED are pretty arbitrary. And I think if LEED is going to stick around, it needs to evolve a little bit. And I'd like to see some of the criteria for LEED focus on resiliency issues for criteria, especially in an urban area.
So I want to thank you all very much for sharing your insight and expertise with all of us. I know that all of you will leave here this morning with a new perspective on how to build better and smarter. And I'd especially like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Renee Sachs and her team at Sachs Communications for helping shape today's event, and to our staff at the Newman Real Estate Institute at Baruch College, coordinated by Sarah Hilsker-Taylor. And may I also like to extend a special thanks to our strategic media partner, Real Estate Weekly for their support of this event. I hope that the rest of your day is every bit as interesting as this morning discussion has been. Thank you to Michael Zetlin, my partner, for holding a wonderful event.